Thanks for those that are joining us by YouTube. We have some folks here joining us with Microsoft Teams as well. We're going to wait a few minutes for some folks to join us, a minute or two. We wiped out the invite from last year and started with a brand new invite. Which whenever you do that change, as we all know, there's changes that come along with that. So the invite. Then the email is the one that's going to work this morning versus the one in your calendar, but that'll be addressed next month. We also have, and I think everyone can see people trying to join, so that will be addressed in the setup before next month as well. So Happy New Year. Beautiful outside though, isn't it? And for those that have joined us, this is something we do monthly. I'm David Couch with the Department of Education. And we share information that's going on around the state, around the nation, and some things that impact districts. Obviously, we have a way to get feedback directly from districts with Go Soapbox. This morning, we don't have any Go Soapbox questions for you to respond to, but we'll have someone constantly looking at that to see what questions or comments bubble up to the top, and we'll address those. And well as anything that comes up to chat, but usually the Go Soapbox is better because kind of folks can vote on the topic and see if they want it to bubble up the top for us to address while we're live. So I think we have a special guest with us. Is our special guest on here?
I hope I'm on here. Good morning.
There we go. Here you go. We have Robin Kinney, and I've had the pleasure of knowing Robin for a couple of decades in a variety of capacities, including this one. And we've always had a great working relationship with Robin and a team effort with Robin, and so it was wonderful. Actually, she was placed in this interim commissioner role. She's doing fabulous, and she's joining our webcast this morning. So welcome, Robin.
Thank you, David. It's a pleasure to be here with you this morning. My thanks to all of the techie people that are out there joining us today, especially since through your efforts, this allows us to have these meetings. So I know that and allows our school districts to keep on keeping on. I saw lots in the news this morning, lots of districts that are taking an NTI day. I think we're getting pretty good at that now, and it's a wonderful opportunity that allows instruction to keep on going, even when Mother Nature doesn't always see eye to eye with us. So thanks to all of you and your efforts on behalf of local school districts and those staff that are on here from the Kentucky Department of Education to keep us going. As David said, I just wanted to pop in for just a minute and say hello. I have been acting in the capacity of interim commissioner since September 30th, and I really appreciate all the support that I've received from the KDE staff and also from lots of people in your local school districts that have really supported me in my efforts. For those of you that don't know me, I have been here at the Kentucky Department of Education for about 13 years total in 2 different tours of duty. Most recently in the Office of Finance and Operations. And so I am an operations person at heart. That's what I do, like so many of you all. And I really know what it takes on behalf of operations staff to be sort of the behind the scenes people that really make everything else go. So again, I appreciate those efforts. When I was asked to take on the role of interim commissioner, I was asked by the Kentucky Board of Education really to focus and support on just a couple of things. Number one, making sure that we keep moving forward. Even though this is an interim capacity, we know that the things that are happening in education happen every single day. And so we just can't stop. We've got to keep moving forward. I've been helping them to support their United We Learn initiative, very important to the department, a grassroots effort that was comprised of really constituents from across the Commonwealth of Kentucky, and 3 big pillars under the United We Learn initiative. First, to create vibrant learning experiences for all of our students. And the role of technology in creating vibrant learning experiences is really, really important. Whether we're continuing the school day or whether we're thinking of new and different ways to engage our students through the wide, wonderful world of technology. So you all play a very integral part in making sure that students are really engaged and really see learning as fun. So appreciate your efforts in that path. Also looking for innovation, especially in our assessment and accountability area, but innovation overall. Again, technology plays a huge part of that. And then engaging with our communities. Looking at not only what we want as a state collectively, but drilling down into what your individual communities are looking for. I've had the opportunity to continue those efforts on behalf of the Kentucky Board of Education and the Department of Education. And then also just making sure that we continue to keep the focus of every child, each and every child at the forefront. With opportunity and access, and technology, again, right there at the forefront, and making sure that opportunity and access for all our students is available. Two things that might be of special interest to you. Of course, I have participated and had the thrill of going to the STLP conference. That's always a big, David always says that's the best time of the year, the most fun he ever has. And since I've been able to participate in those in past years, I tend to agree with him. Many times when you can get away from Frankfurt, get away from the office, and really engage with students and see what they're learning, the Commonwealth is in really good hands when it comes to our kids that are going to come behind us. And then lastly, I just want to share with you briefly, really been working with David and his team to advocate for KETS funding. The General Assembly is upon us. They're here right now. And we understand the importance of what we were able to do with federal COVID relief money in the KETS arena. And we really don't want to take a step backwards. So we've really been talking with legislators, with David's help and the help of his team, in trying to share the great things that have come in a very challenging and turbulent time, which was during the COVID period. But we need additional funds to make sure that continues. And so I just want to reassure you that we are continuing to advocate on a day-to-day basis with various legislators to make them aware of how important that KETS funding is. I know that you all have a busy agenda like you always do at these monthly webcasts. So I'm going to bow out. Thank you for a few minutes to introduce myself and to let you know that how much we appreciate all that you do in Kentucky local school districts in the technology arena. And of course, if we can be of service, please don't hesitate to call, text, or email. And David always has us ready on the other end of the line. So David, I'm going to turn it back to you. Thank you so much for letting me join for just a minute with your team here.
Thank you, Robin. Thank you, Robin. Take care. Yep. Robin also did that, just so you know, with our OET. We had a team huddle, which we meet monthly. So we meet every 2 weeks with either districts or our OET staff, and our OET staff also joined this one. But so she approached us, and she approached me about joining us. She knows we do this, and as my way to keep the other offices educated on what we do, I send them the same summary that I send you all as a way to keep them up to date. And there's a variety of other ways. There's probably 6 or 7 other ways in a toolbox that you try to make people aware of it. And this is one of those. And so Robin has always been very aware of what we're doing and paying attention to it. And our offices work very closely together, many things together. That service both Katie, the agency, because our 2 offices are unique. The Office of Finance and Operations and ours, we both provide services for Katie, the agency staff, and all school districts. All the other really parts of the department really just service either one of those 2 and not really both. So it's been fun to work with her over this period of time. Next, I'd like to share with you our feedback that we get back from districts. every year. And this is the most helpful. If I were to tell folks in a leadership position of any times, and I would actually going back, to my years as a second lieutenant in the Army to the leadership roles I had there to now, the best way I have found in all my leadership time is doing what we do here at the end of the year, the top 5 feedback about what went well, not well, and what should the goals be. And it really helps you understand from the individual's perspective how that works. And it's wonderful to compare that across the organization. And I don't get feedback in the other way. And I ask for it in a variety of other methods. We meet monthly in this setting. We meet monthly with our staff. I meet monthly with our Technology Planning Council, which has a representative of every KD office in a variety of other ways. And it's just golden. We just got the feedback from just not you all, but from every Office of Education's technology staff member, along with all the other offices in KD that we support. And, for example, some of that feedback has some things about things you need to do better, but they're not realizing that actually there's a way to do it, what they're wanting to do. Or it's already being done, they're just not aware of it. And I've had that discussion over the past 2 weeks with a couple of our KD offices who listed as, well, they were frustrated by X, Y, and Z, but they didn't realize they could do X, Y, and Z, and it's already in place, or it's something that we can do. So it's just a wonderful type of thing. And it, as I say, with any kind of planning, it's always important to remember what you're doing well to continue doing that well. There's a tendency with planning just to focus in on what's not going well. But there's always the importance, whether it's your personal or professional life, to keep doing well what needs to be keep on doing well. And so we focus in on that. When we do the master plan, we focused in on that, of the things we need to keep doing well, along with the things that we need to improve on or start doing. It's just golden types of information. This year was different in the capacity that with all the interest in artificial intelligence and all the feedback we got, we're able to do analysis of the feedback much faster using artificial intelligence tools that are available to anyone in the public, including us. And so what the results I'm going to share with you are the summative and the patterns that we saw. And while the unique parts is always unique with districts, I thought it's worthwhile to share the patterns of the top 5 things that we did well last year, didn't do well or didn't get to that should have, and then what our goals should be going forward. And just to help with time, I've consolidated areas of improvement and goals into one. So you'll see that on one chart, and then you'll see the things we're doing well and another one. So I'm going to bring it up. And this was, and tell me when you can see it.
We got
you
it.
all see this?
Yep.
Okay.
Sure.
Okay. So this is an AI generated feedback. Assist by Marty Park. Thank you, Marty. With this now, I think it's big enough everyone can see it. So you can see the summary of taking all that feedback. So typically, we may give this analysis in February or March, but we use part of it right before the annual conference that we have with districts, the CIO Summit, to pick up our what our main topics are going to be. So analysis is whether things going well. There's always good appreciation for our OET staff doing services to districts from you all, particularly the ones that interface directly with you, but some other folks that you don't interface necessarily directly with every day, but you have a second line that supports them that sometimes that you interact with. A David Gay type of person on our staff, for example, and there's many others that fall in that category that are a little bit more behind the scenes that you may periodically interact with, but not as directly as you do with our CADS engineers or E-rate team that interacts with you, or our help desk. So good, always good positive comments that come back from that. So so far. And I know we have our CADS partners that have joined this. We've got, positive, impact or feedback from the next generation Kentucky Internet Service that we'll get a little bit updated, a little bit going forth with the implementation of it, the transparency of it, and the bandwidth upgrades that are going to every district. Once again, we acknowledge the field staff and the opportunities, the recognition of the E-rate sessions with our team, and that brings in, is it 30, 40, $50 million to our state every year. So I think federal E-rate funding is a very important part, bringing it to money to schools and to the agency to support schools. The continued reliance and benefit on the Kentucky Education Technology System KETS funding. And you heard Robin talk about the importance that we spent time and energy with the governor's office and the House and Senate, keep members there about the importance of the funding of that and to raise the funding in additional budget request. And so Robin's been very supportive in her multiple roles, including her commissioner role in doing that. Viable professional learning offerings, positive on a statewide scale, and impact of statewide online assessments. Robin talked about our good partnership we have with the Office of Assessment and Accountability, but there's a variety of other assessments that we're doing on large scale. In fact, Kentucky is probably the most successful, knock on wood, in this area as far as the reliability of the service that we have with both our vendor partner and the network service provider we've had, and a variety of other things that's gone well, especially the states around Kentucky that have not done so on that category. Very noticeable, the cybersecurity support emphasis that we've had, the baseline security project, training of correcting districts and staff, and we have a new stat in the infographic that we're going to share with you that we're going to release here that shows. When I talked to Bob Hackworth, who is our cybersecurity officer, chief cybersecurity officer, got some news about the increased in attacks in just a single year. We saw those increase during the COVID, but just the amount and scale of it increase in just a single year is pretty astounding. It shows that we got to stay, make that a top priority, continue to do that. Our Kentucky User Experience Project has got a lot of attention. It needs to have that to streamline, improve identity management resources across various systems. Areas of improvement and goals, the definitely Q's came up there a lot, increased awareness of readiness of artificial intelligence. And, we just put out a draft in November for your feedback on any kind of guidance. This was guidance from the agency is not a thou shalt, it's more so guidance on artificial intelligence. We gave out guidance that came from the federal level, Department of Education, back in, I want to say, the June timeframe. We also got your feedback last March on when we focused in on it and on the CIO Summit, that particular topic. So there's a variety of ways that we're getting feedback on that, and that's going to continue to be on our radar screen as that evolves. We talked about cybersecurity, elevating that, elevate financial support for technology districts, and you hear Rob and Kenny talk about the importance of that. We've recognized that for a period of time, that in K-12 we are significantly understaffed for the size and scale. As I tell folks regularly, the amount of internet we use is 25 times more than the rest of state government combined and all local governments combined. Not that we're more important, but the scale of what we have and just devices that we have is 25 times larger than everything else combined that's a government organization in Kentucky at the state and the local district level. So definitely the amount of staffing to support that is that, we're Fortune 50 kind of company in that kind of scale. Professional development and knowledge sharing is always be important. Being on the technology solutions, need for more technical support. We've identified for Microsoft 365, EPO, and others items. Desire for improved communications during service outages, where issues have been identified, and resolve those challenges. And I would also add in here, but didn't already add in here, internet content management came up pretty frequently about improving that area, and it's folks saw areas of improvement but still want more improvement, or didn't see enough improvement and want more improvement in the area of our internet content management. And so we'll be discussing that just a little bit more in detail under areas that when we talk about RFPs coming up. There is anxiety about the transition from Microsoft Identity Manager to Qs, and so clear communication is going to be important. And, general desire across is 3 categories: stronger communication, the continued professional development, like the CIO Summit that I talked about that we have with all you all in every March, and the E-rate training sessions, and the feedback and communications that we do with you all, trying to keep you up to date as much as possible. The challenges, of course, we understand that from teachers right now, the issue that we have with recruitment and retention, but it's all levels of K-12, including the bus drivers and the technology staff as well. And demand for advanced planning and guidance with Qs and artificial intelligence, and we agree with that. Additional alternative summaries of this, and this is just another way to look at some of this data. The MFA project that we've had has got tremendous, feedback on it. Obviously, we have to do that to address a variety of areas, but security, the communication that we do, and there's a variety of ways with this webcast that we do every month with you, but also with what we do with our districts, our field staff, working with you, and along with our E-rate staff. Just that you kind of see these. This was another wording of it. And just for our OET staff, I'll be doing something similar to this during our next team huddle that we have in 2 weeks, going over the things that I found that were consistent or stick out. The other thing that we do with this data that I compare the district feedback with our OET staff feedback with the feedback I get from all the offices to see what things are in line, what things are not in line, and you don't expect 100%. Then I meet with Robin. I meet with all the commissioners to kind of go over that type of information. So that's the feedback on that. So thank you for providing that. It's helped us in a variety of ways. I know our field staff in particular is really, Chuck, I know you do this. Our field staff is looking at the feedback from their region to do the same type of thing, to get that feedback, what went well, not well, what are consistencies. I know amongst the KEs, you kind of share that information as well. Is that correct?
That is correct, David. Absolutely. Yeah. Well, yeah. And it's just a good opportunity because, as we know, we all do the same thing across the state, region by region, but every region has their own nuances. Okay. So it's just a good exercise for our KEs and the rest of our field staff to look at that at a regional level, see where we've got opportunities to assist, opportunities for growth, and to see where maybe we've got regional opportunities, all right, that we need to either share across the state or ramp up assistance in. So absolutely, it's that, as you like to say, David, it's that 360-degree view.
Yeah, very helpful. And as I say, for any leadership position you may have, whether you stay in K-12 or not, I encourage you to do it, especially if you can go to a brand new organization, you're placed in a leadership role with your staff, is just you get the view of the individual, which is always helpful, and to us, individual districts and me, individual staff at offices, but also collectively, what are themes? And you have a couple of things mentioned by a couple individuals say, that's a great thing. It wasn't a theme, but we need to do that organizationally wide to consider it. So it's a wonderful thing. I don't get it in any other kind of way that we get it this way. Next topic we have is going to be
David, before we move on, I thought it would be great to just mention, and I know you've done an awesome job of pushing over the last, since we've actually been collecting the feedback, we spend a ton of time with it, and we individually read, especially our leadership team, we individually read every bit of feedback from everybody. And I just wanted to make the point, we did use some artificial intelligence tools to pull some summaries together, but really keeping humans in the center, right? That's one of our master plan areas of emphasis. And tied to anything to do with artificial intelligence, we want to be safe and responsible in how we're using the tools. But I thought it was a good example and a good moment to just share that as humans, as leaders, we all read the feedback first and we worked through it. And we've had a lot of discussions and we continue to do that. That won't change. we just wanted to bounce some artificial intelligence into it just to test and see how well are we summarizing, and can we take initial steps to leverage artificial intelligence as a tool. The one thing we did first was ensure that as we're using those tools, that there was no sensitive information being shared before we start to get that summary and that interaction with those tools going. So I just wanted to mention, we definitely will continue, as you mentioned, to move forward, and we're going to continue to spend time with feedback from every district, and we would never just let AI do that thing. And so okay.
Good points, Mark. For example, names are removed, sensitive parts are removed from it as you're using that tool. I did find, having read all of them more than once, it did a pretty good job for the most part, and giving some high level stuff. So it does help folks get a quick view of it. So you can, which I encourage everyone to circle back and see the individual parts of it, but just interesting to try to walk the talk a little bit. And you can see how AI could help a teacher find lesson plans, be that teacher's aid in going through a large amount of information. And, for example, Jeff, this, we use it for STLP to give students feedback, not on their final project, but, just kind of, when they want feedback, how am I doing? We don't have the ability, we don't have the staffing to grade all of them, but it gives them, to a certain rubric, ability to give people feedback. So it's not 100% perfect, but it's the way to utilize the tool. And I know you've utilized it. Next up is our official release of our 2024. For those that are new to watching this, every year we do this in about the January timeframe. We take all the feedback that we got. So there's another area of feedback that we get from you all. It's called digital readiness. It's not the top 5. And that's more specific of how much stuff you have and how many people you have and how much time you're spending on X, Y, and Z. And we also have a way to get feedback from a variety of other methods. And we bring those cumulatively into this document. And we talked about, I can't remember, 1 month or 2 ago when we didn't have the infographic ready. But we saw the trends we shared with you there. But we want to share parts of the infographic, not going over it all again. I do want to point out the one about cybersecurity jumping up to a big number, much bigger number than it was last year. So go ahead, Mario. I'll let you and Ben Maynard take us through it a little bit.
Well, thank you so much. We did share digital readiness results in a previous webcast. So those are live and those are available. Certainly for you in local districts to use those data to kind of articulate some ideas or questions that you may have and how your district is moving big implementations forward as compared to other districts, and that's always been helpful. Huge shout out to you as district leaders. This is the best and cleanest digital readiness work that we've ever had. It's the fastest turnaround. Huge shout out to our field staff for the stewardship that goes into, we never want to publish or promote incomplete or inaccurate information. So it helps us at every step, especially as Commissioner Kenny shared, as we're making additional budget requests, that we have a really good handle on where we are today, where trends are headed, and what we're going to need moving forward. So our digital readiness work helps with that. So shout out to our district leaders, our field staff, and specifically to Ben Maynard, who does all this work and helps us put it together. So we have digital readiness, and I want to make sure that you're aware. So I'm going to share my screen, and I'll be very quick here, David. So if you just do a quick Google search for KETS Master Plan, that takes you, and I'm mainly doing this for our newer folks, that takes you to a spot. This is our 2018 to 2024 landing spot for the KETS Master Plan. That's on our Kentucky Department of Education website. In the contents of the KETS Master Plan, you will always have an appendix for surveys and results. So you can quickly get to our surveys and results. Now, a lot of people like to print this infographic. So in terms of digital readiness, and again, here's a link to those interactive reports. But if you want to print a infographic approach, a visualized approach to these data and some of the top elements that we have identified over the years as being very impactful to move big conversations forward, or locally to help you ask what we refer to as the next best question in terms of education technology. You can print this, and it's an easy printable infographic. But on the page, we also have the long form that you can just scroll through and visualize these data that tell the story of what we're doing with education technology in Kentucky and how we are. And not that we always say not that we cannot continue to get better, but how we're leading across the country in education technology. So this is the infographic for this year. All data has been updated, and to specifically call out things like internet usage has increased again and again and again. As we always say, we increased 37.5% over the past 24 months. We continue to watch that. We'll see, and as we have transitioned and as districts are transitioning to NGKI, we'll see that continue to climb. Greater than 732 kilobytes per second of bandwidth per student. That's awesome, and we'll see that continue to climb as we transition as well. So most of these data are reflective from digital readiness, but we also have feedback data and perception data from teachers and students across the state. As you are aware, we are working to continue to do that in a different way than we've done in the past. So that'll be future work. But we get into what our students and teachers are actually getting to do with the technologies and how they feel about it, what their perception is on how comfortable they are. And so there's some really good story starters here. There's some great questions to ask locally. And so this is the infographic for this year. Everything has been updated to the best of our ability. It's a great opportunity locally to bounce through, kind of guide some meetings to ask some of these questions. We triangulate from several different sources. And as David pointed out, whether it's just about the stuff, so the technologies that you have, or how we are using the frequency of use and things like that and how we feel about it, are great conversation starters locally. So David, here's the cybersecurity section. So 821 large scale attacks that we've successfully mitigated in the past year, as well as 137 billion. And I know you want to make sure that we understand that's with a B, unauthorized connection attempts against our school networks that we are blocking annually by statewide security services. So this is our infographic.
If you just pause there for a second, I know Bob, you don't want to say something about this. The number before the pandemic, I wanted to say, was 16 billion attempted cyber attacks against Kentucky K-12, and then last year it went to 75 billion ish, and now it's 137 billion. It's just astounding. And we've talked about before how education organizations are by far the number one target of cyber criminals. 80% of attempted cyber attacks are on educational organizations. And we've talked before about the reasons behind that. So this is something that educational organizations, K-12 and higher education, are experiencing 80% of the cyber attacks. And I won't go over the reason, but I am shocked it has gotten not doubled, but it has climbed up to 137 billion attempted attacks that we see. I'm going to have Bob Hackworth. Bob, you want to say anything about this that you see?
Yeah, I want to thank everybody. When I look at the feedback and when I was looking at the AI reduction of the feedback, it was like, whoa, is this AI hallucinating? Because there's a lot of really good words in here about security. But what I want to say is thank you to all the districts for taking this seriously and for taking the information that we're providing you seriously and using the tools that you have to protect the students and protect the teachers, protect yourselves, to protect our state. Because again, as you heard David say, how big we are compared to the rest of state government. And if hackers, if cyber criminals were able to get into and really impact us the way they would like, then that would have a huge impact across everyone in the state. And we're kind of holding the gates firm, and nothing's 100%, but I really appreciate the effort that you put into there. And always keep in mind, I say this and I don't mean it in a negative way. We're just Kentucky. We don't have the biggest budget in the world. And so our friends in K-12 and higher education across the nation are seeing similar, if not more. And, I get calls sometimes from other states and they're kind of asking for advice and that sort of stuff. And I'm always happy to talk with them. I'm sure that a lot of you, especially around our perimeter, get the same thing. I'm always happy to tell them what we're doing and what we think is working well and what we think maybe isn't helping. And I encourage everyone here, if you get those calls, to go ahead and help our neighbors across those state lines as well, because they're in trouble too. So thank you all very much.
Thanks, Marty. Scary stuff, though. Scary stuff. And not that I want to motivate any kind of cyber hackers, but
yeah, definitely
Kentucky does an outstanding job for a variety of things. What we do in schools, our product standards that we have across all school districts that do really make it much more difficult for cyber criminals to be successful. So when you see that large number, the success they have is amazingly very little. I mean, we do want to keep it that way. I'm not trying to motivate some kind of cyber criminal right now, but that is attempted attacks that we know of. The amount of success they have is very small, but it happens. I mean, we have breaches that occur by people trying to do all the right things. And be honest with you, with the scale of attempted attacks, that is somewhat to be expected. This is going to happen when you have that kind of scale. But then we try to share that as much as possible. What happened to a district or an organization in Kentucky or outside of Kentucky to try to help protect others so that they don't get to do that 170 more times. I did want to share one thing before I go to the computer science piece of it. You had something else you want to share, Marty?
Yeah, and it may be similar to what you were going to jump in. I just wanted to point out that we do use the infographic. We share it with legislative members. We share it widely, again, as a conversation starter. I wanted to make the opportunity available. It is, at this point, we kind of have it in a template format. So we've had the idea over the past several years that if you at a local district level want to grab that template and drop in local data from digital readiness and make it specific to you, that's an opportunity. If you wanted to use that, we can make that available through our field staff, just as an option. It's no more work for us. We would just share the template with you, and again, you could tell the local story. So that is an opportunity. We'll talk through that at the field level. But thank you, David.
Hey, and Marty and David, I want to throw one more thing out there. It's January, which means August is just right around the corner. And some of the cybersecurity information from the infographic could be put into your cybersecurity health check report that's due in August. So I just wanted to throw that out there. It's good information to have that can help inform folks at your district and push your efforts forward. Thanks.
We also have the tool you're all aware of that you can, besides the infographic, there's other tools that we have that's available at every district and anyone in the public that can compare your district numbers, all the numbers you see, to districts around you. That tool is available through Open House, Lincoln Open House. You can compare your district to the entire region that you're in, the entire state. The infographic can be used for the same purpose. You can compare. And I know at the state level, at the DOE level, we're comparing how are we doing just not in Kentucky, but what other states are doing. And so it's a valuable tool to see where you stand on a statewide perspective. I did want to circle back and make one more comment I meant to initially about the top 5 feedback. For those that are new, all of our top 5 feedback is not anonymous, People have to put their name behind it. And I think there is a important part of a leadership role and just a member of society role of putting your name behind a criticism that you may have. And you can do criticisms in a constructive and respectful way. It's a life skill. I do find anonymous feedback has more toxic types of things without balance. And the other part you don't really get is when you hear a toxic kind of remark, is that what 99% people think, or is that 1%? So when you get people putting their name behind it, And like I say, anything in life, you can be critical in a constructive way. And you tend to be in that, as you should be, if you were dealing with them face to face and want to be respectful to them. It just helps out all in all. So you know, there's anonymous feedback the other ways, but just so you know, people put their names behind it. And I find, you know, and I talk with our staff every year, you can be critical, and you know, it's fun to read the things we're doing well. I tell you, that's my favorite part to read. It is not as enjoyable to read the top 5 things that we're not as doing as well, but you got to read those to get better, and those work into the goals. But all that can be done in a constructive way and should be, versus just a toxic type of setting. Next up that we have is Sean Jackson, our outstanding computer science representative on our staff that works with districts and the Office of Career and Technical Education. He did an outstanding presentation to the legislature. And Sean, I don't want you to present all of that again. And you did a wonderful job. And you've shared some of this to our staffing, but I'd like just to point out some of the key things that you found in that that you want to share from that presentation with our districts.
Yeah. So our computer science story is one of growth, and on average, over the last 5 years, we've seen a 1% increase in the number of students taking computer science, but we've also seen district opportunities grow. And I'm going to cover just a few of these things. So this is our state snapshot, just showing us that, hey, 94% of our districts are offering at least one foundational computer science course to our students, but you know, a lot of them are providing complete CTE pathway opportunities of 3 or 4 course sequences. Now, we do understand that these numbers have fluctuated in the past few years with people changing job positions, you know, staff changeover. And we know that not all of our computer science teachers are teaching computer science full time. Some of them are coming from the math classroom and adding these types of opportunities because they are passionate about providing these opportunities to their students. So, but we have a really positive cadence going on with our growth in computer science. So, you know, another 1% increase this last year in the number of students taking computer science. That's 6 through 12, because those are the course codes that we can definitely track and make sure that we provide enrollment data on that. And we're providing some great opportunities through advanced certifications. I will say that, you know, on the cybersecurity topic, the CompTIA Security Plus certification has grown by leaps and bounds because we have teachers in our state that have led national and regional trainings on Security Plus, and they're now saying, hey, I think my students can do this. So that's a really, really cool thing to see grow out of our classroom leaders in this space. Code.org just updated their 9 policies to 10. They've added that, you know, hey, requiring all students take computer science to earn a high school diploma, that graduation requirement is another metric by which they measure success and policy success in computer science. That's not something that's on the table for us right now. We continue to see growth, and we also have, you know, a lot of great organic and self-motivated pursuit of computer science, that adding another, you know, graduation requirement and another mandate on top of our school districts already, that's just not something we're ready to pursue right now. But we believe that creating opportunities for lower K-8 students to engage in computer science through a variety of ways. We can address these standards in STLP activities. Participation in TSA has gone down to middle school now. We have all kinds of ways that they can engage with computer science standards in the regular classroom. There are resources out there, and we can help point you in the right direction. But we've seen a lot of great positive growth in Kentucky. Just looking at our implementation map across the state, you can see where we're teaching computer science all the way from the complete pathway just down to one computer science course maybe available, but it's still a start. We have to make a start somewhere. And those check marks, that's everywhere that's offering AP computer science. and it's usually AP Computer Science Principles. But as soon as somebody adds the AP Computer Science Principles, we see that they're picking up the AP Computer Science A Programming and Java course, and we're having some great success. And again, those are funded by the Office of Education Technology. We provide the funding for every computer science student to take the AP exam every year. So it's a really good opportunity. No excuse of funding barrier. Say, hey, if you're taking the course, let's try the exam. And we're having some good success there as well. Demographic percentages. Again, I want to just push that we heard from students at a legislative roundtable that from these female students saying that they, were having issues fitting in the computer science learning classroom, making sure that they were feeling welcome. So it's time for us to redouble our efforts to make sure that we're providing a space and place for all of our students to feel welcome in our computer science and CTE classrooms. And our percentage of female students taking computer science is not where we want it to be, but we're always striving to get better. And you can see here are just a couple of the top courses that we see school districts offering. Computer literacy is our number one. That's kind of a gateway course between the digital literacy course, delving more into the computer science standards courses. Then we have Introduction to Computer Science Middle School. That's awesome. That's awesome to see that our middle school course code is the second highest computer science course code in the state. Then it goes to AP Computer Science Principles. Again, a great gateway course for students to try. And then all of our Intro to Programming courses as well. And just lastly, I would like to show you the, there's some AP exam data for us, but I want to jump to our teacher data. One thing that we saw at the very beginning was that we have no real mechanisms for people to gain entry into the computer science teaching world without, we were allowing math and science certifications to do it, but there was no real way for somebody with a social studies background like me to become a teacher of computer science, even though they may be passionate. They may say, I'll do whatever trainings you want me to. Well, we've solved that with the Approval for Computer Science certificate code. And that is the highest popularity credential for people teaching computer science. 86 of our teachers across the state have that credential, and that is what is allowing them to teach computer science. They have English, social studies, music, art backgrounds, and they're coming from all different classrooms to come teach computer science. And it's not necessarily somebody says, you're going to teach computer science. It's, I want to teach computer science, somebody show me how. And I think that's a really, really cool thing. And again, these reports are going to be posted on our master plan page. You can see our historical reports there already, but I just want to reemphasize what I said to the board, what we've said to the legislature, that our story of computer science is one of continued growth and advocacy. Sorry, I couldn't say that word for a second, but it's one that we should be very, very proud of, because we're preparing our students for jobs that currently exist and hopefully jobs that don't necessarily exist. I know that the AI conversation is huge and people are saying, are we teaching that in our computer science classroom? Yes, we are. We address that in several of our standards, but AI is embedded with both programming, mathematics, and data science. So yes, we're addressing those things. And I couldn't be prouder of where we are as a state with computer science today.
Sean, once again, thank you. We are so fortunate to have you leading this effort. You just do a wonderful job working with all the folks that you work with and championing this effort. So thank you. Thank you for presenting this morning.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Next up is we talking about data systems, any kind of data systems updates. So Dee Dee Connor, are you on?
I'm here.
right.
Thank you. Just a few updates today. Just wanted to let some of you know, if you haven't already been involved in this, you probably somebody in your using the Google or Yahoo Mail. There's some Infinite Campus changes that have to be made. They've actually reached out to the districts before they reached out to at the state level. We're now working with them to try to make some more global changes. So we'll provide more information as we have it. But you can hold a little bit tight on that for right now. I think the Google and Yahoo Mail requirements are coming in February. So just kind of stay tuned on that work.
Yahoo Mail.
That's what it says. Yep. I don't know that anybody uses that, but those are the two that our Infinite Campus is addressing. So anyway, also civil rights data collection is in full swing right now. So districts should be validating their data. There is some data we do not have available at the state level. So you must enter that data before you can actually verify everything and certify. We've got 13 districts that deserve a high five already because they've already certified and they're completely 100% done. You still have some time. Don't get undone about it. You've got till February 26th to complete. We've got another 28 districts that are between 96 and 100%. They just haven't certified their data. So we're seeing some progress there, but there's still more progress to be made. Candy Johnson is our contact. She does a great job for us. If there are questions in your district, you just need a go-to person to find out, get a question answered. Office of Civil Rights, obviously is the first choice. They're the collectors of this information, not KDE, but Candy's been able to help with many of the districts, and I know I get good feedback from folks on her help. So continue to reach out to her if needed. We are still in the middle of an RFP process for the school report card. That still is progressing. We do intend to have a school report card with a new vendor at the fall of this year. The later that comes, the later that might be. We're not sure yet, but we were hoping to have be able to say who the vendor would be and make some type of announcement by the first of the year. And we're still in the RFP process, so no news at this point. We do have just a reminder. If you haven't, or if you're not sure if your district does, has done a review, mid-year is a good time to review who your active users are. Make sure that they need access to Infinite Campus or your other systems. It's not just Infinite Campus. Even those accounts that are just not being used, they may still be with the school district, but if they're not being used, that's an account you might want to go ahead and close until there's real value. It's just another portal into the system that maybe could be compromised, and if it's not there, you can avoid some risk. There is a report available in Infinite Campus that if you have your cases admins run, it's the active user account access and usage report. It gives you a lot of good information to be able to use on that. So I can put a link to that quick reference card in the chat once I get done here. So you'll have information on that report and can follow up as needed there. Infinite Campus Interchange is scheduled for December 5th and 6th in 2024. So it's a long way off right now, but I know Lisa DeGarris has been sending out information for some feedback on last year's interchange towards this year. So you just might want to block your calendars for now if you typically go to that. If you've never gone to it before, it's a good, even if you're not the cases admin, it's a good conference to go to. It kind of gives you some input into a lot of things that can be done through Infinite Campus that you might not be aware of. As far as other training goes, we did cancel our mid-year training. We didn't have any program areas that were ready to present anything at this point in time. We think we can do all of our updates to our newsletter. But we do have we should have a date, or we do have a date tentatively set for the end of year training, which will be April 24th. I got all choked up over that. I don't know why. And then there is some February 27th through the 29th. If you do have, I would drink some water. I know this is your all's favorite part of our webcast, so I always try to go through it fairly quickly. February 27th, 29th, Infinite Campus has some system admin and end user training that's going to go on. So if you have some new folks that need that kind of training, reach out to Lisa DeGarris, because that's a new offering that just come out last week. So that's all for me.
Thank you, Dee Dee. And just I didn't introduce her title. She's our Chief Data Officer for Office of Education Technology for KDE. So thank you for all you do, Dee Dee. Next up, we'll have Lisa Moore, who is our policy advisor with the Office of Education Technology. And so one of her roles, amongst many other duties as assigned Lisa, is to keep up during a legislative session and represent us with the other policy advisors in KDE as far as legislative things that impact education technology for KDE agency or school districts. So what do you got for us, Lisa?
Well, it's been really busy. They actually haven't, when they've been in session, their session times have been really short, like half an hour or less, but they're coming back today. Today, I told you all 60 days takes a really long time in the legislature. So today they will convene at 4 o'clock and it will be day 10. So in those 10 days or 9 days, they have introduced almost 500 bills. So I have read almost 500 bills. Today, normally the House Education Committee and the House Appropriations and Revenue Committee would meet, but they are not meeting today. Those are regular meetings. Tuesday and Thursday is Senate Education. So if you do want to catch those, they're available either on KET or the LRC YouTube channel, and you can feel free to watch those, and they're archived in case you miss them. So the bills, they can file bills until February 26th in the House and February 28th in the Senate. Of course, the first couple of days they did, close to 300, and then the others have just come in over the additional days. I did put together a short list of topics that they have filed, close to 70 bills that KDE specifically is tracking that are curriculum or KDE related. And those topics go from the Kentucky Board of Education, parental rights, taxation, DEIB, school choice. There is a new comprehensive numeracy bill. And then there's a couple of cleanup bills for things that we actually got a sponsor in the legislature to do some cleanup language on several bills. Education specific, education technology specific, we've only had one bill that is actively moving. And David, I know you probably want to speak to it in a little more detail, but it's Senate Bill 52. And it is, the title is an act relating to technology and education and declaring an emergency. And when a bill is declared an emergency, it would become effective as soon as it is passed, signed by the governor. So that one has been assigned to committee, but it has not gone before a committee yet. But it is definitely one that we spent a good deal of time on over the holidays and right after we got back in preparing a response for. And it's related primarily to artificial intelligence. So.
Yeah, I'll get up on that, Lisa.
Okay.
Part of it with any kind of someone putting a bill forth, one of KD's responsibilities in whatever office is to educate them on how it may play out, intended or unintended consequences, along with educating them on what things are already in place. Over my course of 32 years, getting close to, is, you have legislators that come and go and well-intended, they come in and they propose legislation, but things have already been in place that address it and address it very effectively. But they didn't know that because they're very new to it, and the people around them are not aware of it either when they propose it. So with this particular bill, there are parts that are already in place that are been in place for quite some time, decades, that are very effectively working well. For example, we already have a master plan for education technology. In fact, we're getting on our 6th version. So we don't need to create, a new one in the first one because we're already down that line. And our existing one already talks about artificial intelligence and includes that as one of the items that we got to keep an eye on. And so once again, they're not aware of that. We already, Sean, you addressed how we address AI in computer science and the academic standards. And once again, whenever a new technology comes out, you don't necessarily say we need a new standard for that brand new technology. It's all these other parts of the baseline computer science field that allow you to do all those. You don't have to have one very specific for that, but it's just educating folks on what we already have in place. So there's a big part of that. that I've had to spend time on, educating them on it, and including with trying to meet with the bill sponsor to educate them on it, along with not adding something that's not working well, hadn't worked well for a while, so we don't want that done. The part that probably adds that's new is them wanting a report from districts on how they're using AI in their district. And my response to them would be in the written note that would be is it's going to be very difficult for districts to know that they're using AI or not. A lot of products, probably majority of what people do in AI, you don't realize that AI is being done behind the scenes to make the product more effective. I just know in the Microsoft world, as they're doing it to their products behind the scenes, obviously Microsoft's heavily involved with AI, that a person not to realize AI is behind the scenes, make it more efficient. Now, a tool and there's very few tools that folks directly interact with that know that they're interacting with AI. Much like we did when we did somewhat the analysis of the report, like a chat GPT, Bard, and some other ones that are out there. And much like we already gathered from you all, and just educating, the folks who are wanting to do this, is they say, well, we need to educate districts. Well, we've been educating you. We had this as a CIO summit topic last March. I got your feedback from 24 tables and shared that. We have the national guidance on AI from the U.S. Department of Education. We gave out draft guidance in November. And still, if you all have any feedback to that, let us know. So we've already been doing this, that, probably legislators aren't aware that we're doing this, that call it out in this wording. And so we're going to educate them there. But the report is new. And so the question I have for you all to kind of help me out with is what do my guidance as I meet with them would say, well, the only real guidance that or feedback that districts could give you is the ones they know they're directly interacting with, like chat GPT. And there's a few others that they could say, are they interacting or interacting with it, and the magnitude of that. Is that worth doing legislation for that? Or is there another way we can gather that? Just like we did a snapshot at the CIO Summit, we get a snapshot of something like this. So that's where that's residing at. But as Lisa also says, is we are also involved with any kind of data collection. And DD's organization, DD Connors, is when there's new legislation proposed, the legislators don't realize data's got to be collected. And for the most part, with our authoritative data systems with Munis, that's used by every district, and Infinite Campus, those are already collected in some kind of way. But do districts regularly collect it, or they have a data element there that can collect that? So part of that's educating them on the plus and minus of that. So thanks, Lisa, and we'll keep you up to date. Obviously, we are closely watching the budgets, because this is a year where the budgets are proposed, and so we're watching for the House budget to be proposed, the governor's budget, as I mentioned last night in December, it's a $9 million annual increase for KETS. We hope that to be at least the one in the House and the Senate, if not more, but hopefully that.
Yeah.
But we'll have to see how that plays out, and
Hope
we'll
to see it
keep
this
you
week.
informed.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, and like I say, Robin's a great champion, and we're over at the Capitol. All the KD leadership team will be over at the Capitol. I believe it's tomorrow morning. I'm over there meeting with legislators, opportunity to meet with them, and obviously championing these types of things. Next up, Mike, I'll let you kind of do Mike Lettingham, who's one of our division directors, and also I call him our chief of staff kind of role. Give you update on our next generation Kentucky Internet and the RRFP. So, Mike, are you there?
Yep, I'm here.
Okay.
So I'll speak to that, and then probably roll right into the RFP, as I think you mentioned just then. So on the next generation K through 12 Internet, obviously that work continues to roll on. We've got 46 sites completed. That's 27% of our districts. I think Jennifer Devine, who's our project manager, was you going to pull up the graphic there, if you could, just kind of illustrates where we've got things implemented. I'm seeing a black screen, so for some reason there it is.
There. I see it now.
Got it. Yep. So there's an illustration. We didn't add in there. If people recall, in the previous version we were showing sites that were scheduled to be transitioned and upcoming over the next couple of weeks or whatever period of time we did. And I'll speak to that. The reason we didn't go ahead and show that is because we do have quite a bit of movement going on in the schedule, which was fairly we pretty much predicted was going to happen because of site readiness and some of the construction things that are continuing to go on. So there is some movement around when sites are scheduled. I ask that the districts be patient and work with through your KE as we have to look at kind of maximizing our schedule and our opportunities to implement folks when they're ready, and then have to shift some things around. It was, again, that's something we pretty much predicted to happen in midstream, and it is happening in a little bit. So we'll continue to work with our partner ENA and their partners as we move forward. I don't have any reasons to be overly concerned about that. But again, there are some challenges occurring there that we expected to happen. So again, overall strong movement to continuing to move this project forward. We will continue to transition this from an implementation project to a full live operational service. So there'll be a lot of things going on throughout the duration of this through July of 2024, where we're managing the project and the implementation, the ongoing transition, but we're transitioning things to the live service that will be supported. And there'll be similarities to how we supported this service from the past, but there will certainly be some changes and some functionality that's going to be gained. And again, we expect to have a lot of those things in place by July, with a few things to be completed, shortly following, and as we go into the first full year of this new service being completely operational. So I think I've mentioned all those things I just said in the past, a variety of ways. So again, just ask for folks to continue to be patient, being very direct and constant communication with your KE, especially when your site's coming up. And we'll continue to move this project forward. And again, target of being fully transitioned by July 1 of 2024. And then the service being fully functional, meaning a lot of the additional functionality and things that we expect to get in place. A lot of those things to be in place by July, but some of those things will have to continue to be put in place as we move into the new fiscal year. So again, that's just a reiteration of things I've said. Speaking of active, and if there's any questions on that come up, somebody point them out to me if they would on the Go Soapbox. On the RFP activity, which I want to start out by reminding folks, any RFP activity that we have going on is work that we do directly with our office within the department, Office of Finance and Operations, as well as with the Finance Cabinet, the Office of Procurement Services. All of those things are led by the Office of Procurement Services and the Finance Cabinet. So I just want to kind of remind folks that there's a lot of joint effort between organizations here in Frankfort that work together on these things. So Dee Dee mentioned school report card, ongoing RFP activity, continuing to work that to move that forward, to establish a new contractual arrangement to be able to move that forward. Similar to that, we have the SEEK initiative, which is the funding system used by the Department of Education on behalf of all school districts that provides and manages the multiple inputs into how funding is provided to all school districts. That's, again, in the middle of RFP activity to establish a contractual arrangement to essentially put a new next generation system in place to run that. Professional learning management system, one that people have been interested in, again, similar in nature, in the middle of the RFP work. And when I say these things are in the middle of the RFP activities, typically there's very little I can get into the detail on that, just because of the way that those are ran from the Finance Cabinet. So again, you'll hear me speak to them somewhat vaguely, but if there was issues or concerns, that we would probably speak more specifically to those. So when I say they're in the middle of we speak pretty confidently that we're going to be able to get where we need to and establish the new contracts and the services that are associated with those as we move them forward. The other one I want to mention is CUES. CUES is one that, again, is in the middle of the RFP activity. As many of you have asked us and pointed out to us, that one did have a reposting of the RFP. That is something that happens sometimes. There's a variety of reasons that can contribute to why an RFP may get reposted. And that one, and again, we know there was questions about that, but that one did have an RFP that got reposted. So the first RFP activity got canceled, and then a new RFP was posted. That's currently in process. And again, overall, same thing. We expect to move that forward and to be able to establish a new contractual relationship to move us forward with what we're wanting to do with queues. And we know there's certainly a lot of interest among everybody that is in this call to that progressing forward and being able to establish the functionality that's associated to, what we're looking to do there. The last one I want to specifically mention, if there's one I don't mention, anybody wants to call out in addition, because I'm just trying to mention ones I know for sure folks are paying attention to, but there are other RFP activities going on that the department's involved in. But is the work that we're going to be moving forward with on the internet filtering and content management. So that is one where we are going to be exhausting the extensions that are available on the current contract that we have in place for that service, that functionality. So we are in the process of looking at how we'll establish a new contract and a new relationship, whatever comes of that, through an RFP process to continue that service and make that available to school districts. So again, that's active work. We're in the early stages of that, but it'll move pretty rapidly. That current contract with the last extension we have will be expiring June of 2025. And so, while that seems a long time off, depending on what and how that looks as far as moving forward, we certainly got to allow for quite a bit of time, similar to what we did with NGKI, as far as, and again, those are unknowns there. So I'll leave it at that. And obviously the KEs are well prepared to speak with you all and answer your questions on any of these things and funnel those up to my team as needed. Chuck, I know you were involved with some of those there. Is there any comments you wanted to make on those real quick? And then I do want to talk about a couple other things real quick, David, before I shift out of this.
No, Mike, I just want to reiterate, right out of the gate, you were talking about NGKI, and just reiterate what you've already said, that flexibility is the key right now, especially with the construction activities. And though inclement weather that we deal with, those can always have an impact. Okay, so we just ask school districts, as Mike's already mentioned, just stay tuned in really tight with your local KE and be ready. Okay, because, as we get opportunities to escalate folks up a schedule, we will. There are going to be times when we have to push people on the schedule, as Mike mentioned, and that's just part of the game we're going to play for the next several months, but we're very confident with the teams that we have assembled and the schedule that we have. So really, Mike, that's the only thing I wanted to tag, other than, as you mentioned across every one of those, we are very committed to ensuring that in 24, we get a great run and go with several opportunities and different technologies and different initiatives that we have.
Okay, thanks. So real quickly, David, before I kick back over to you, E-rate, that application window is open. It closes March 27th. We got regional trainings starting on Thursday. I believe the first one, well, there was one on Wednesday, but that got postponed due to the weather. So the first one, I think, is on Thursday in Moorhead. And keep in mind, and I think this has been well shared, a district can attend any of those. And I think the Ks have tried to make sure that districts know that if something doesn't work out, that you have to attend a different one. There's no reason you can't go to any of those. So the Ks, I know, are sharing those schedules, and we'll be doing those trainings. I want to, couple of items. Again, this is not new information. Wi-Fi buses is now available, so pay attention to what you need to do if you're wanting to utilize E-rate associated to your Wi-Fi buses. It does require for you to establish a purchasing mechanism through the 470 process. So, do pay attention to that. And then the mini bid process that's required by the E-rate program to utilize existing state contracts. There's going to be some, very specific guidance provided on that will be a little bit more revised or a little bit more specific and detailed than maybe what you've heard in the past, as we make sure that we're conducting those correctly to protect, what and how we interact with the federal E-rate program and with our state contracts. Last comment, offers of assistance. All of our districts that had to extend for the first offers, got that taken care of. So I thank you for that. I know last district webcast, I mentioned we had a few districts that had to get extensions to be able to act on responding to those and taking action. That all was taken care of. So that's great. And so we're on track, with our first offer all being in process. Second offer will be around the April timeframe, most likely, which will be $9. The first one was $12 for a total still yet targeted at being $21 for the year total offers of assistance. I think that does it right now, David, unless something comes up or there's a question.
Thank you, Mike. Next up, we'll have Brian Spillman, who is the acting interim division director for us. And Brian, thanks for stepping into that role, Phil Coleman's role. That position will be announced fairly shortly. The vacancy will be announced to fix. So, but I appreciate, Brian, you stepping into that role, and you're going to give us an update on ServiceNow.
Thank you, David. Yes, I'm going to be quick, and then I'm going to hand it over to Stephen Jaganowski. So I'm sure I just butchered your name. Sorry. To give some more details. But our service desk team and our division has been in the background moving over to a new platform, ServiceNow, to provide support and to track support and so forth for our districts. And we made that switch in January. But you're going to see some new features and so forth that Stephen's going to share with you. But we're really excited about this, and it should allow us to provide a lot better service and tracking of issues and anything related to the districts moving forward. With that, I'll stop talking and hand it over to Stephen.
Yeah, Stephen leads, we call him Jag. Stephen leads our service desk services, and he's been there for quite some time. He's a pretty good golfer too. So you got it, Jag.
All right, appreciate it. Well, good morning, everyone. And Brian, I'm going to schedule we might need an hour to get my last name down with you, but we'll get that all taken care of. So yes, yeah. As Brian said there, we did a successful implementation on January 5th to ServiceNow for our IT case management. So we're very excited to get that done. A long time coming, and appreciate the work that was done on that project over the last couple of months. The two big things that we wanted to pass along, since we do have all of our district and most of our vendor partners on today, the things that will impact you, first and foremost, is that the way that you reach out for support and to contact OET have not changed. So, the last thing that we wanted to do is during the middle of a big issue, you having to find a new email address or new contact number, something along those lines. So just continue to reach out to OET and the CAT service desk in the ways that you have. Any of the phone numbers that we have and the CAT's help at education.ky.gov are the best ways to do that. The second thing we wanted to discuss is there is a new look. We do send notifications from ServiceNow out to our customers, so that includes most of the people on here. And I will share what we have, but everybody, rightfully so, is on high alert for spam and phishing. So we wanted to do show you all real quick what the new emails are going to look like, so you know what to expect when they come in. I am sharing that now, so hopefully you all can see the email on your screen. The main thing that we wanted to point out are that we did set up a new email address for ServiceNow specifically. So you're going to see these come in from CAT's support. That is an education email address. As you can see, it's catsupport@education.ky.gov. So be aware that these are legitimate emails coming from this new email address. These emails sent to the customers, you're going to see they're very succinct. We try to keep them nice and clean. So we have just a basic banner on here, some general information that you'll get about your case, and then we do have our support options here on the bottom for you. So please be aware that these will be coming in. The look and feels a little different, but for our customers to be able to know when these are coming in and what to expect were the main things that we wanted to state today, Dave. We will have some options, as Brian stated. ServiceNow has a lot of options. We decided to start off very kind of succinct, again, with what we have and make sure that our support was ready, and then we'll start to roll out some of the newer services as we get moving on. We'll be notifying you all via emails and other avenues similar to what we have, like with the district webcast here, to keep you all aware of what we have coming down the line.
Thanks, Jag. Our last topic is the Legislative Research Commission, LRC's graduation citation. And you all may know them by a different type of name. I have with me Jonathan Harris, he's the CIO of LRC, and I think you said a Pike County Central grad, and Lindsay Swartz, who's on our legislative staff, legislative and legal services staff in KDE. That's a liaison from that office to OET. And so I'll just do a brief introduction. These citations, it's if I were to describe it simply, it's kind of like a high five from a legislator to a either graduating 8th or 12th grade student on them graduating. And it's as simple as that. It comes from the legislator. It's the House rep, the Senate rep, or a combination of them, or either or one of them that goes to them. And LRC uses information, directory information, to gather the names of and I'll share with you the specific data elements, the names and the school name and the grade level of students in schools. Then they get input from legislators who would like to send a graduation citation to all the 8th graders and 12th graders of that specific school. And typically LRC needs that in the mid-March timeframe. This will be February or March 15th. In order to have enough time to once again get that information in and actually produce and print out, they print these out, and then send them to the appropriate schools in advance of graduation. Now, the one of the changes, this has been going on for at least a decade, if not much longer, in some kind of format. I think Jonathan, you were telling me you got this even going back to 2007. Is one of the changes and the reason I'm bringing this to your attention is we'll be talking about this during the superintendent's webcast, not the technical details I'm going to share with you, but there's really a change in the process to where districts are getting the information from. FERPA is it's a federal law about student privacy, and it clearly lays out the types of things that like audits and studies, to where directory information can be shared from the SEA, and the SEA would be the state education organization like us, like KDE. And then you have the LEA, the local education agency, which is you all, the district. The graduation citation falls into a category of the information, the directory information, like the student's name, their grade, the school they're with, needs to come from the LEA versus the SEA. And so that's in general. The other part is either parents or students or a combination of them can, and by the way, every individual district determines what directory information is or isn't. And then you have the parents or the students can identify things that they don't want the LEA to share, that don't meet that audit and study requirement. And so you'll have X% of your students, and this is only something the district tracks, and this is something only the districts track. There should really nothing be at the state level that identifies all the parents that have opted out of anything. There's a hornet's nest associated with that, and from a variety of perspectives. So only the district keeps up with that kind of information and subtracts the students or the parents or the parents that have opted out of directory information and want that information for things like the graduation citation. And so the process change will be the school district will directly send that information. I'm going to bring up some talking points from this and let me know when you can see it. Can you all see this? You all see the?
We can see it.
Yeah.
Got it.
Okay, good. Just need a thumbs up to talk about that. So these are from the technical part, and I'll scroll down here, and Jonathan, you can jump in anytime if I'm going off track, or Lindsay as well. These are the data elements, and there's 9 of them that's going to be needed here at the bottom for every student. Their name, if they have middle name, initial, their last name, grade, the district number, and this helps the LRC team, appropriately address which district and school it goes to, the information, the academic year associated with. So there's the 9 data elements, and these would just be for the 8th and 12th grade students of the parents and or students that have not opted out of this kind of information being sent from the LEA, the district, to any organization outside there that does not meet the FERPA requirements of a study or an audit. So if I go back up to the steps, and we've tried to work with Jonathan to make this as simple as possible, and work with Dee Dee Connor as well and her team, identify there's 9 data elements. And Dee Dee, correct me where I'm wrong talking with you. It takes about 2 days for Katie to create and deliver this tool that will go into the Infinite Campus system of all districts and be available to that staff. And there's a communication that's going to be a written communication that's going to go from the commissioner's office, from Robin, to every superintendent on this subject. So besides talking about it on the superintendent's webcast today verbally, there will also be something in writing. And we really wanted to wait till that written communication is received. We've had a chance to talk to you all. We've had a chance to talk with superintendents. Probably something that probably needs to send out the cases folks too, Dee Dee, at some point here soon, since they're going to be mentioning this. And the writing to the superintendents. And then that tool will be available and visible. We didn't want to put it there beforehand and say, what in the world is this thing? And just a reminder for folks, the district's Infinite Campus system is operated and maintained by the districts, typically by the districts and their point of contact. And typically that point of contact, well, not always, is the district's director of pupil personnel, or DPP. And so the DPP, or I'm sorry, the cases point of contact, where it may be, will be using this LRC graduation citation tool to export those 9 data elements in the local districts for the local 8th and 12th grade systems. And they'll be subtracting out the parents and our students that have not opted out of the district's local LEA providing directory information to someone like that. And so it'll put it in a CSV file. That takes on average, for the average district, 5 minutes to run that tool and gather that information and put it in a file. And the district's cases point of contact will then email that file to the address that I'm showing there, and that's a LRC address that Jonathan Harrison team has created that they'll be emailed to no later than March 15th, because once again the timing it takes to get there, you don't have to get it super in advance, although I'm sure they'd appreciate it way in advance of March 15th, but no later than March 15th. So we're giving you all a heads up today. We identify the data elements that are down there, and we'll follow, they'll follow up with it in writing. The districts will, need to identify the person in the district, typically the cases point of contact that'll run this, and forward it to that secure location. This is really, need to edit that out. Got the email address. So this was my talking points last week. LRC has the list of legislators that have approached them that want this to go from them to the student, and for LRC staff, I've let them know that in open house it has the email address and phone number, so they can communicate directly with superintendents that didn't turn out by that 15th March date, and may need a reminder, and Katie can also send a reminder to districts about that. So I'm assuming that most, I'll stop sharing this in a second. There we go. I'm assuming that most have heard, may not have heard it called graduation citation, but are familiar with it in some kind of way. And I don't know if anyone has any kind of questions about it. Once again, there'll be this afternoon, Todd Allen, who leads our legislative and legal services office, will be talking with superintendents more about the non-technical aspects of it. I'll be on there to briefly say that I've spoken to you all and share the technical details of what's going on, but I don't know if there's any kind of questions. Jonathan, is there any kind of comment that I didn't hit on that I should have from your perspective?
No, I think that covers it for us very well. Thank you.
Good. Thanks.
Hey, David, I've got a couple of questions to address if you're done with that came up in the Go Soapbox real quickly.
Okay, Lindsay, I don't know, before you do that, Lindsay, yep. Lindsay Swartz on. Lindsay, did you want anything to what I said or needs to be adjusted or corrected?
No, I don't have anything to add. Yep.
Okay, thanks, Lindsay. Okay, Mike.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Real quickly, a couple questions I seen in the Go Soapbox. One was around some outages associated to the NGKI environment. And I actually meant to speak to that, so I'm glad you asked that question because we have experienced a couple of instances. And, specifically, as was asking the question around when configuration activities or maintenance type things are occurring. And that's an ongoing discussion and planning that we're doing with our partners for NGKI on how any kind of configuration activities are handled or maintenance type activities are handled to avoid any kind of disruption to service. And I feel very confident that is something that is not going to be an issue or any kind of an ongoing challenge. I mean, and I know we spoke to this once before, is while we're working very hard to avoid any unknowns or or any predictable process as we work through the processes and the different activities associated to the different partners that provide this service. We might bump our head, and we're trying to avoid bumping our head. All of us are, and if we do, we're going to act very quickly to resolve that and make sure it doesn't happen again. And again, the goal would be to not bump our head at all, but it might happen once in a while. And so while we're in this implementation phase of this project, it could happen, and if it does, very much so, make us aware of that. We will put the steps in motion to resolve things as quickly as possible. And our goal would be to avoid any of those kind of disruptions for sure during the rest of the time of the project, the implementation project, the transition activities, a lot of things in motion to get this in place and to have it finally tuned. Again, our goal is to by July timeframe to have it finally tuned to where it's even more minimal that those kind of things would happen. So I probably said more than I even wanted to say about it, but I think again, everybody appreciates that, understands that. But I also understand that everybody's expectation is 100% uptime, fully functional, no disruption, and absolutely that's everybody's desired goal, including our partners. The second question was around where I mentioned mini bids and our E-rate training, and I think the question was really targeted toward: is there anything about that may be an issue with the current or active mini bids that have already occurred or in process? And I will say that I hope not. But I want to say that if there is, then it will have to be what it will have to be, because our goal there is to ensure that we're maintaining the integrity of our participation in the E-rate program and our participation in our state contracts and state standards. And as we're doing that, we're pointing out and we're clarifying some things where there has been, I think, some gray area that has that maybe occurred or has occurred in a few instances. And so our goal is to act on this very quickly. And worst case scenario, if you do have a mini bid that as you look at it and as we clarify some things, you're like, maybe I should have handled this or that a little differently, then you may have to do your mini bid over. Mini bid process is not all that painful, and I hope that nobody has to do that. But if they do, it's not extremely painful, and it can be where you do a mini bid over if you decide that you need to ensure that you have maintained the integrity of both the federal E-rate program requirements as well as the state contracts and our state standards. So again, we're going to go over that during training. The KEs are very in tune with the conversations around that. And my hope is there's not a need for folks to have to redo anything they've already done. But anyway, I wanted to address that question as well.
Thank you, Mike. I noticed one of the questions a couple of months ago at esports and usage of the Nintendo Switch was discussed. Was this recorded? The best I can recall, the answer was yes. We did record that. I don't think I've had anyone ask for that. But so if you are the one that asked this question, I don't know who's asking this question, just email me directly, and I'll go back and look where that was at. We didn't want to put that out, to some of you folks, because this is not a question that they have. So if you do have that, just email it to me and put Nintendo Switch, and I'm the person that asked you that question here, and I'll look and I'll forward it to you. Yes.
I think that question came in from the fine representative in Region 2 that is Steve Gum.
Oh, okay.
If I'm not wrong. Now, it could be a Steve Gum from Campbellsville Independent, but I'll let them clarify that with you.
Okay. All right. just send it to me. I don't mind forwarding it. And we did record it for the purpose of that. If someone had a question, they couldn't make it that day. So, all right. Well, thanks for joining us. I usually hang on, for another 10 or 15 minutes, just as an informal kind of time for someone to ask questions. But so thanks for everyone for joining us today. Hope you're staying warm, staying safe. Take care.